So, Hare Krishna. So, before we start the class, let us take the blessings of the beautiful deities of ISKCON Mangaluru, Sri Sri Radha Govind Ji. Sri Sri Radha Govind Ji ki Jai. So, we'll start from 5.11. You are still able to see my video, Mataji?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Video is there. Today it is visible.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, we are supposed to start from 11, Mataji. So, can you please read the 11th shloka, Mataji? You can see the screen, right, Mataji?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Hare.
Yeah, please, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Shloka 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyair api yoginah karma kurvandi sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye.
Hari bol, Hari bol.
Shall I continue?
Please, Mataji.
The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. So here in this shloka, they are telling the yogis they abandon attachment and what do? They act with the body, mind, intelligence, and even the senses. For what purpose? Only for purification. So here Krishna is saying that real yogis. So who are the real yogis? They are devotees. Okay, these devotees they do all the activities without attachment. Okay, they have no attachment for the results. And why do they do all these activities? They only do it for purifying their heart. So what does this mean? See, when we work for own enjoyment, the result binds us to karma. But when we work for Krishna's pleasure, the same action becomes devotional service. Okay, so the devotees use their body, mind, words, intelligence, senses, everything in the service of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada also says that a devotee, he does not think that I am this body, this belongs to me. So a devotee, he understands everything in this world, material world, is Krishna's property. Okay, so whatever I have, be it time, energy, talent, possessions, whatever is, they use it in Krishna's service. See, if I'll just give you an example. Like ordinary action means what you do it for yourself. Okay, that causes karma. But when you do it for Krishna, that is bhakti. It leads to purification. So, for example, suppose a karmi is cooking. Why does he cook? With the intention that I want to enjoy tasty, nice food. Okay, that is his intention. Okay, and then how about the devotee? He will cook very nicely, he will offer it to Krishna, and then he will honor it as prasadam. See, one more example, like for example, you're working, you're doing a job. Why do we work, material people? Because I want money, I want name, I want fame. So that's why they work. But a devotee, why does he work? Why does he do job? To first is to support family and serve Krishna, temple, and the devotees. Okay, with whatever money he has, he will provide for his family, and the remaining amount he uses it in the service of Krishna conscious activities. And for example, one more example, speaking. See, material people, they gossip, they do a lot of criticism and all that. Okay, but a devotee, what does he speak? He opens his mouth, he speaks Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, and he preaches, he shares Gita knowledge, he encourages others. So he uses his speech like that. Okay, next, using intelligence. If they want to use the material people, they plan for enjoyment. But the devotees, they use their intelligence, they plan how to spread the Krishna conscious movement. Okay, so, and one more example, caring for your family members. So why do they, a material karmi person, what does he think? Oh, they are all mine. That is how he cares. He never cares about anybody else. So he says, they are mine. But at the same time, a devotee, what does he think? He knows that they are all Krishna. His family members are all Krishna's children. Let me raise them in devotion. Okay, he knows that the family members Krishna has given, all of us are Krishna's children. Okay, let me raise them in devotion, let me engage them in Krishna conscious activities. So just a small, that's what we earlier also we spoke, right? It is just a change in consciousness. Outside, it might look that both the karmi and a devotee are doing same thing. It look like they are doing material activities only. But it is just a matter of consciousness. For example, one more example, like if you're cleaning your house, if you're keeping your house clean, a material person will think, this is my house. I want it neat. That is why he does, he keeps the house clean. But what does a devotee think? He knows, he knows that this is Krishna's house. I am just a guardian. So let me keep the house clean for Krishna's pleasure. Because he knows that this is Krishna's house. Okay? And he knows that if it's Krishna's house, obviously Krishna can come, he can walk, he can do anything, right? So when he comes, it should be clean. When he's staying in that house, it should be clean, neat. So we do it to please Krishna. So this is Krishna's house, and I am just a guardian here. So let me keep the house clean for Krishna's pleasure. So it's just same cleaning, it looks like. But now, when you're thinking about for Krishna, your heart becomes purified. Okay, and in the purport, Prabhupada says about, he talks about Jivan Mukta. So who is a Jivan Mukta? So one who serves Krishna with body, mind, and words, and is liberated even while living in this world. Okay, so he is a Jivan Mukta. Even when living in this material world, why he is liberated though he is staying in this material world? Generally, we say liberated when we leave this body and we are trying to take a next body. We say, I mean, like we are dead. We say we are we've got mukti, right? But though we are staying in this material world, we are jivan devotees of jivan mukta. Why? Because they are engaging their senses, mind, intelligence, everything in the service of Krishna. Okay, so that's why Krishna is saying we don't have to run to the jungle. Okay, so we become pure where we are, right? Where we are, we can be at home. Wherever we are, we can become pure. How? Just by changing the purpose of our actions. Okay, just by that consciousness, that is the difference that is required. Just by changing our consciousness. Okay, so what do we have to understand? So Krishna, he owns us, and everything here, everything we have, it's Krishna's. So we simply have to use whatever Krishna has given us in his service. Ourselves, our body, mind, intelligence, and whatever Krishna has given us, money, wealth, or whatever, our family members, everything in his service. Then every action becomes bhakti, and we become free. When we do bhakti, what happens? We become free from all kinds of karma and false ego. So this is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so now let's go to the 12th shloka. Mataji, can you please read the 12th shloka? Mataji, I think you're on mute. We're not able to hear you.
Hare Krishna. Okay,
Yeah,
Mataji. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Shloka 12. युक्तः फलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिम् आप्नोति नैष्टिकीम् आयुक्तः.
Sorry, Mataji, it is not ayuktaha. It is no sleeping line is there. It is ayuktaha.
Ayuktaha
Yeah.
kama karena phale.
No, phale.
Phale sakto nibathyate.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful.
The explanation: the steadily devoted soul attains unaltered peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in unison with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here, what is Krishna telling Arjuna? See, one who offers the results of his work to Krishna, he becomes peaceful. But one who works for selfish enjoyment, he becomes worried. I mean, he becomes anxious and he's entangled. Okay, so we see a Krishna conscious person. We are just trying to say it is just the consciousness. So a Krishna conscious person, he says, I am working for Krishna. See, when he works for Krishna, what happens? He leaves the result to Krishna. He's not bothered whether there is profit loss. So that's why he undergoes peace, freedom, and he's happy because Krishna is in charge. Okay, so whatever be the result, he is prepared before itself. Okay, if it is loss, fine. If it is profit, fine, no problem. So that is why he is peaceful. He is prepared. He is freedom and he is happy. But a materially conscious or a karmi, he says, I must enjoy the results. He doesn't leave the results to Krishna. He says, I must. If I work hard, I should get this result. I only must enjoy the results. Because of which he gets anxiety, frustration, and bondage. Why? Because when he wants to enjoy the results and if he doesn't get what he expects, suppose he is expecting profit from a business and he gets lost, then he gets frustrated, anxiety, and because of that, he is in bondage. Okay, because good or bad karma, he has to suffer or enjoy, right? For that, he has to come back to this material world. Okay, so that is why they say we should give our just leave the results to Krishna. Okay, so we'll understand why is the devotee peaceful, because he knows Krishna is the owner, Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller. Okay, and that's why the devotee, he simply offers the result and is free from worry. Okay, he just does his duty 100%. He gives his best and he leaves the result to Krishna because he knows Krishna, whatever he does, he is the Supreme Father. He will do good for me. Okay, whatever result Krishna gives, I will accept and he will stay peaceful because everything comes to us because it passes through Krishna, right? Without Krishna's permission, nothing happens, not even a blade of grass moves. So he knows, okay, yeah, Krishna has given me this. He must have thought properly and he must have given me this result. So he's not worried. He's just fully peaceful. Okay. So he thinks that if Krishna wants success for me, it will come. If Krishna doesn't want, then also I accept with peace. No problem. So there is no stress about winning or losing because everything is Krishna's desire and mercy. He understands, devotee understands that. That is why he is peaceful. But why is a karmi worried, anxious? Like I told you, right? Because he thinks this is mine. I must enjoy the result. Then he will be thinking, what if I fail? Because always it's not like profit, success always. Then he gets worried. Oh, what if I fail? What if I don't get profit? What if I get loss? So this, like this false idea of duality that he always competes, me or others. mine versus not mine. So this creates fear and competition. He's always like, okay, if I don't succeed, it is okay, but he should not get more than me. He should not succeed. So this competition, this ill mentality, envy, jealousy. So because of all this competition, it's like he remains worried and dissatisfied. Even though he may be rich or famous, but he remains worried and dissatisfied. Okay, so we'll see some examples like how like a material karmi, how he behaves and how a devotee behaves. Now it's, for example, children's studies. What do parents think? Karmi parents think my child must come first. Okay, because of which what happens, lot of stress for the kid, right? Even they feel stress and the kid also feels stress. Okay, but a devotee parent, he thinks, let my child study to please Krishna. So that's why they are calm, peaceful. They are not competing with someone else. Just they want to please Krishna through studying. Okay, for example, cooking. The karmis, why do they cook? They cook to, I want to enjoy tasty food. But the devotees, what do they do? Let me cook for Krishna. Let me cook for the devotees. That's what they think. Okay, and job also we said, right? I want name, salary, promotion. So I want. But the devotee, he says, I want to work to please Krishna. And whatever he earns, he gives it to Krishna. Okay, and temple service also. Why do people go to the karmis? They go to the temple. Why do, and they suppose they do some service? They want people to praise them. That's why they do seva. That's why they go and do some work there. But the devotee, he says, let Krishna be pleased. I should not be getting honor. By my seva, Krishna should be pleased. So it's just a matter of consciousness. It's the same action, but different result because of different consciousness. Okay? So what we have to understand is, see, Krishna is the absolute truth. Okay? So everything is his energy. So everything that is there in this material world is Krishna's. So when we work for Krishna, there is no karma, there is no anxiety, there is no fear, only spiritual purification and happiness. Okay, so this is the secret of peace. That's why you see devotees, when you see the faces of devotees, they're very peaceful. They're never like frustrated or gloomy or sad like that, because they understand the reality. When we leave the results to Krishna, and we know that Krishna is in charge of everything, he's the cause of all causes, and everything, even the material world, everything, it is being run by his energies. Everything is in his control. So it is nothing, it is not dependent on us. It is not that if I do hard work, I will get the result. No, not necessarily. Okay, so that's why what we should do, everything is in Krishna's hand, control. So what we should do, devotees know that. That's why they just do their 100%, they do their duty 100% and leave the result to Krishna. They are not sad also when the result is bad, because they understand, okay, this Krishna knows what is good for me. Must be there is something that I have to learn from this bad also. That's why Krishna has given me. So they take it positively. They don't get frustrated or disappointed. Oh, why Krishna? I'm doing your seva. I'm doing so much for you. I'm doing chanting, reading. I'm doing so much seva. Why you're giving this bad to me? They never complain. So they are peaceful. They understand whatever Krishna does is for their good, be it bad or good. They take both on the same plane. Okay, so that we have to understand. So when we stop working for ourselves, in the sense for our sense gratification, and we start working for Krishna, then what happens? The heart becomes peaceful and our life becomes successful. So that we have to understand. See, for this, there is a example. See, Nrigas fall down due to fruitive activities, karma kanda. Okay, so we have to, this example tells us why we have to be careful about karma kanda, karma kandi, fruitive activities. It's very dangerous for us. Even though King Nriga, he wanted to do a nice activity, a nice charity, that turned as a sin to him. Okay, we'll see that story. Wow, what happened to Nriga? Okay, so King Nriga was a very pious king. So he loved doing fruitive activities, karma kanda activities like charity and performing sacrifices. So he donated lakhs and lakhs of cows to brahmanas. But one time, one small mistake happened. A cow that he had donated to one brahmana accidentally returned back to his herd again. Okay, so but and he, the king, he gave that same cow to some other brahmana. Now two brahmanas were dissatisfied. Now both came to know, oh, this is my cow, how come it is with you? This is mine. Now the brahmana says, no, the king has given it to me, it is my cow now. But the first brahmana says, this is mine. It somehow went back to the king's cow herd again, and that's why the king, without his knowledge, gave it to you, but it is mine. But the second brahmana says, no, no, but now king has given it to me, it is mine. Okay, but and they both come to King Nriga. So Nriga says, okay, he says, I'm so sorry, I think it just happened by mistake, and he tried to beg forgiveness. And he said that I will give many, many cows in return for this cow to each of the brahmanas. But both became very angry. Both the brahmanas became very angry because they felt cheated. Because once it is given, once the dana is given, it should not be taken back, right? So they felt cheated. So because of that one mistake in fruitative work, King Riga, he received a sinful reaction. Okay, so they curse the brahmanas. I mean, like they curse. So what happened as a result? In his next life, he became a huge lizard. You see in the picture, right? He became a huge lizard and he suffered inside a well for a long time, long time. Okay, see, just see. I mean, like imagine, even though he was very pious and he was charitable, he didn't want to hurt anybody. He was very pious and he was very charitable. He wanted to serve only. Okay, but see, we can see that one error in karma bound activity brought heavy punishment. He wanted to do good only, but he never expected this would happen. But what happened? In his next Janma, he became a lizard. So, but how he got delivered? So during Krishna, I mean, when Krishna was on earth, he was doing his earthly pastimes. Krishna came to that well, and you can see, right, with his own hands, he touched Nriga and he brought him out of the well. Okay, and with his own hand, he brought him out and delivered King Nriga. And then King Nriga, he then offered prayers. He understood, and then he's saying to Krishna, "My Lord, I realize He's saying that I can understand how the karma kandi activities, they are so futile. Okay, so no matter how many charities one gives, that's why he understood now. See, no matter how many charities I give, if there is even a small mistake in that, one suffers. But what is he saying now, King Nriga? He's saying that your devotional service, it gives only auspiciousness. It can do no harm. There is no sin. So devotional service is so pure, it can never do any sin, and it can never give us any harm. But these karma kandi activities, they say these rituals or these yagnas that you do, one wrong pronunciation by a brahmana will forever take us to bad karma, like King Riga. Even though maybe we are doing a yagna for a good purpose, but wrong recitation of the mantras will cause a different reaction. So that's why whenever you do a karma kandi activity, you should be very particular. You should follow the particular rules and regulations properly. You should follow. Otherwise, it gives a reverse reaction. But Krishna consciousness is such that whoever does this devotional service, okay, will be purified. There will be no sinful reaction. Okay, it is full of auspiciousness. That's all. Okay, so what are they saying here? See, the karma kanda activity is risky, and material charity cannot save the soul. Many people think doing all these charities will save the soul. No. Okay, in fact, it is binding. Okay, even good actions bind us if not connected to Krishna. Because, see, if you do good activities like pious activities, you may go to heaven. Again, after that punya is over, you will have to again come back to this material world. But in this material world, if you are connected to Krishna, you will get liberated and you will go back to Godhead. You will never come back again to this material world, right? So, only devotional service gives real benefit and no sinful reaction. Okay? So what are they trying to say? So we should not depend on karma, but perform all activities such as devotional service to Krishna. Then we are always safe and happy. Okay, the best way is just do devotional service to Krishna. It is auspicious. It is like it give you peace. You'll be happy without a doubt. Unlike these karmakandi activities, you don't know, they are very risky. If they are not performed properly according to the rules and regulations, you will get even though your intention is to do good, but it will give negative reactions, like the story that we saw just now. Okay, so uh, let's go to shloka number 13. So before we go to shloka number 13, it's a different topic. Now 13 to 16, platform of knowledge, knowing the three doers. See, for any activity that we do, these three persons are responsible. That's what they're saying. So we should know who those three doers are. We should have that knowledge who the three doers are. So the first one they're saying the first doer number one is who? The living entity. Who is the doer number two? It is Prakriti, material nature. And who is the doer number three? Is the super soul. Okay? So here they're saying the living being, doer number one, who knows that all bodily activities, see, are automatically carried out by the modes of material nature. Who is the doer number two? After those activities are sanctioned by whom? Super soul. Only if the super soul sanctions can the Prakriti further proceed, right? Attains an enlightenment through that knowledge. Okay. So the soul, material nature, and super soul are the three doers. That's what they are saying. Okay. So now let's see 5.13. Mataji, can you please read the shloka, Mataji, 5.13?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Shloka 13. Sarva-karmani manasa sanyas aste sukham vashi
Mataji, sanyas yaste.
sanyas aste
Yaste. Sanyas yaste.
okay sanyas yaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan. Hare
Haribol,
Krishna.
Haribol. Yeah, wonderful, Mataji.
Oh,
Please read the translation also, Mataji.
okay, Madam. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentality, renounces all actions, He resides happily in the city of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. So what are they saying here in the shloka is like they're talking about first, let's see. So Krishna is telling that the soul is living inside this body. And what is this body? It is a city of 9 gates. What are those 9 gates that we have in this body? 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, mouth, anus, genitals. So altogether 9 gates. Okay, so through these 9 gates, the body interacts with the world. What does it do with the 2 eyes? It sees. Two ears, it hears. 2 nostrils, it breathes. Through the mouth, what? It eats and speaks. Hmm. Through the anus, we excrete, and through the genitals also we progeny. Okay, so through these gates, the body interacts with the world. Okay, so who actually works? Now the question comes, see, the body works automatically by material nature. Okay, the body, it works with the material nature works. I mean, like, it makes the body work. It makes the eyes see, it makes the ears hear, the hands move, and the brain thinks. But the soul, who is the real person, is different from the body. Okay, you understand, right? So it means that the body is different from the soul. And we are not this body, we are the soul. Okay, the material nature only controls the body, not the soul. But and we are the soul, right? Okay, so example, for example, we can take, like, it's just like a person sitting inside a car. He is different from the car. Okay, so the car moves, but driver is different, right? So like that. So similarly, the body is like a machine with 9 gates, and the soul is the driver inside. So like the car, see, the car is the body, and the driver is like the soul. Okay, so now our body is like a machine with 9 gates, and inside the body is the soul. He is the driver inside. Okay, so so why do we suffer? What is the main reason why we are suffering in this material world? Because we forget our spiritual identity and we think, I am this body. These senses are for my enjoyment. It's a simple logic. See, when you use anything in your sense gratification, it is bound to karma. When you use your senses for Krishna, there is no karma. Okay, so that we have to remember. When you think everything is for myself, then there is karma. But when you do everything to please Krishna, no karma. Okay, so that wrong identification causes suffering. When you think that I want everything for myself, that wrong identification, it causes suffering. Okay, see, when, for example, see, when sickness comes, we think I am suffering. When old age comes, we think I am becoming weak. So it is the body that is becoming weak, or the body that is suffering, but the soul is untouched. The soul is not suffering, the soul is not undergoing sickness, the soul is not going undergoing old age. It is the only outward body that undergoes changes. We know, right? Soul is eternal. Okay, it cannot, it does not get old, it does not change with time, nothing. The soul is eternal, it remains like that only as it is. It is just the body that changes. So that we have to understand. So what is it that is suffering now? Because we have come in this material world, the soul has taken the body of a human being, right? The body of a human being. So the body is suffering, it's not the soul that is suffering. And the body is suffering because of the three modes. Okay, that we have to be very clear. But we are what? Not this body. We are soul. Okay, but what, that's why we are connecting the soul to Krishna. Okay, so that we will be relieved from this pain of the body, so that we will leave this body and the soul can go to the spiritual world and enjoy with the spiritual body there eternally. Okay, so we have to understand that this body is causing us pain, so we have to get relieved of this body now. So that is why we connect, the soul wants to connect with Krishna. Okay, so the soul also needs a body via media where it can do devotional service, right? Where it can connect to Krishna. Okay, so that's why when a person he becomes Krishna consciousness, he stops identifying with the body. He understands. So he uses the body only to serve Krishna. Okay, he needs a via medium, right? The soul by itself, it cannot serve by itself. It needs a via medium, a body to serve. So it uses this body to serve Krishna. Okay, so then when he serves Krishna, what happens? He becomes peaceful and happy inside. Okay, even though he's staying in this body, he remains untouched, because what, the soul is doing activities what he's supposed to do. See, it's like this. For example, see, a car's food is different, and the driver sitting inside the car is different. So you cannot give the driver petrol and say eat, drink, or eat, or you can't do that, right? So the car needs petrol, the driver needs food to eat. So like that, the body needs food to eat, but for the soul, the driver inside the body, the soul, it needs Krishna Katha. It needs activities related to Krishna. Okay, so what we can understand is a Krishna conscious person is free from all bodily reactions, because he knows he's not this body. Okay, even though there is pain in the body, he will bear it because he knows. Okay, now in this Janma, this soul has taken this body and it is prone to suffer, because this material world itself is a place of suffering. He knows that. He will bear it, but simultaneously he uses his body in the service of Krishna. Okay, so he knows, he understands, a Krishna conscious person, he's free from all bodily reactions. Okay, he lives happily even in this material body, because he knows, I'm not this body, I belong to Krishna, and Krishna is the controller of everything. Okay, so what we should understand, so we must live in the body but not become the body. Okay, till now, the soul was thinking that I am the body. Okay, before we came to Krishna consciousness, all of us were thinking that we are body only, right? The soul thinks that it is the body. That is why we do everything and anything to keep this body comfortable, beautiful. But when we get this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we understand that we are not this body, we are the soul. And that's when we give importance to the soul. We start feeding the soul and not the body. We stop feeding the body now, because we understand we are not the body. But we do maintain this body healthy, because it is the soul, through this body, it does devotional service. For that sake, we have to maintain this body, keep it healthy. Okay, so that we have to understand. Okay, so we must live in the body, because we need this body to serve Krishna, but we should not think that we are the body. The soul should not think it is the body. That is what we were thinking all these years. Before we came to Krishna consciousness, we thought that soul is the body itself, so everything is the body only. But we understand that soul is different, body is different. We are soul, not body. So what we should do? We should use the soul is using the body in the service of Krishna, but we should not think that we are body only. Okay, we should use this body, the soul should use this body as an instrument to serve Krishna. So we should understand that. Okay, so this is 13. So the same thing is being said here. See, the Jiva, he's situated in the city of 9 gates, 9 holes of the body. We saw what those 9 holes are. Not working or causing work to be done. He does not create activities, does not induce others to act, does not create fruits of action. Happiness or distress come from identifying with this body. When one renounces the results, then we can live happily. So that's the final ending. As long as you think you are the enjoyer, you are um, a karmic reaction takes place. But as soon as one renounces the result, then he can live happily. He becomes liberated, though he's in the body. Okay, he's Jivan Mukta. Okay. Oh, 5.14 shloka is not given. Okay, 5.14 shloka is not given, Mataji. You can please read the translation, and I'll just try to explain, Mataji.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Shloka 14. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act,
Oh,
nor
this is
does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Haripal. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So now they are talking about, see, all this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So next, second doer. Okay, first doer we saw is living entity. Okay, how he should act we saw. Not on bodily platform. He should understand that he's not the body, but with the body he should use the body. The soul should use the body as an instrument to serve Krishna. Then he does not get entangled. So now all this is enacted by the modes, but the body is totally running on material nature. It is being run by the three modes of material nature, the three gunas. Okay, that we'll see now. So Krishna explains that the soul inside the body, it does not create the actions of the body. We generally think that it is the soul that is making the body act and everything, do everything. No, the soul, it does not force anyone to act. It does not create the results of actions. But who does all this? All these are done by the material nature, the three modes. The material nature itself means it is run by, you can see in the picture, you can see three devatas, like demigods, who are making us act like a puppet. We don't have control over our body. See, the devatas, we like depending on our guna, sattva guna, tamo guna, rajo guna. That's why, in this material world, when we are sometimes we become sattva, sometimes we become rajo, sometimes we become tamo. Why? Because depending on the guna that we acquire, we are made to act like that. See, sometimes we don't like to do that work, but we know that is wrong, but still forcefully we do it. Why? Because it's the effect of the trigunas that we are forced to act, even though sometimes we know, okay, suppose a thief, he knows it is wrong, but he still does it. Why? Because he's more in tamoguna, that tamoguna is acting on him. Though he knows it is wrong, but it's because he's in that tamoguna, he is forced to do that theft. He thinks that because of that tamoguna effect, he thinks, oh, I will not be caught. I will somehow explain if I will somehow escape. If I get caught, I will get come out like this. If I get caught here, I will come out like this. So he makes plans. So it is because of that guna. Okay, we see about the demigods, right? How they are controlling the person below. So nothing is in their hands actually. It is the trigunas that are controlling us. Sometimes, even though we don't like, we are forced to act. So that's why nothing is in control here. That's why they say, come above these three gunas. So if you want to come above these, you don't want to be controlled by the three gunas, you have to come above them. How to come above all these three gunas? You have to practice Krishna consciousness. Only if you practice Krishna consciousness, you will come above these three gunas and you will be in Shuddha Sattva. That is the only way out. If you don't want to be controlled by the Prakriti or material nature, by these three gunas. Okay, so all these are done by material nature, the three modes, that is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Okay, so the soul, see the role of the soul versus role of the body, we see. See, the soul is the real person actually. Okay, and body we got in the when we come to this material nature. Soul is the conscious, it is conscious, it is eternal. But body is what? It is temporary, it is made of matter. Okay, soul is a witness and it desires. Okay, body, it performs action through Prakriti. Nothing is in the hands of the body. The body is just dull matter, that's all. See, if the soul is not there, what is the body? That's why we call it as dead body, right? Okay, so Prakriti is controlling the body. Okay, so and soul means what? It is spiritual in nature. Okay, and body is what? Because soul is spiritual, it does not undergo change. Body is what? It undergoes changes. Right, it is full of reactions and changes. We see, right from babyhood to old age, so many changes we undergo. Right, this material world itself is prone to change. It changes with respect to time. That's why it has a start date and an end date. Okay, let's see, the body acts because of Prakriti, not because of the soul. That we have to understand. Soul has got nothing to do with the body. Soul is not the body. Okay, the soul just uses this body in devotional service. Otherwise, the soul, earlier, the soul used to think that it is the body. Okay, so that's why we used to give comfort to the body. We used to make it beautiful or give it comforts, nice enjoyment, everything. Okay, but no responsibility of the soul, because soul is different, body is different. The soul just uses this body for devotional service to Krishna. Okay, so we should understand the body acts because of Prakriti, material nature, because of the three modes. See, like a puppet, now you can see in the picture, right? 5.14. How the demigods, one is Sattva Guna, one is Rajo Guna, one is Tamo Guna. So each, they're acting, they're making the below persons act according to the gunas. Okay? So for example, you think that yellow dress lady, she is like Sattva Guna, the red dress is like Tamo Guna, or the purple dress is like Rajo Guna. So each, they are, the human beings are just puppets in the three gunas over there. No. Right. So it's the body, it runs based on Prakriti. It is not because of the soul. The soul is not driving us to become materially involved and do all these things. Whatever. It is not the soul at all. See, for example, see, the body feels hungry or tired. Correct. But the soul does not become hungry or tired. The soul is never hungry or tired at all. It does not need food. It is just the body that feels hungry or tired. Because it undergoes changes. After some time, through the years, the body is built in such a way that it again gets hungry. Okay, so this we must understand. But the soul, it does not become hungry or tired. So why do we suffer? The only reason is because we think I am this body, and whatever the body does, I am responsible. So it's only this false identification that brings us anxiety, fear, karmic reactions, repeated birth and death. Okay, it's just like a passenger in a boat. He's thinking the waves are tossing me. He thinks the waves are shaking him up, but it's the boat, right? It's actually only the boat is shaken. The waves, the boat is there in the waves, and the boat is being shaken, right? So like that, only the body suffers, not the soul. Okay, so outward, the body, it definitely will give pain, suffering, but it is not the soul. Okay, when we are in this material world, the soul does not suffer because the soul is Sachidananda always. But the soul has, when it comes to this material body, it has taken this human body or whatever body, and that body undergoes changes. It undergoes like disease, illness, all those it undergoes. So it has to undergo pain, suffering, stress, all kinds of different emotions because the body is prone to change. The soul is eternal, there is no change. Okay, so we are struggling in the ocean. So Prabhupada says that the soul is thrown around by karma, desires, three modes of nature. Okay, so like waves in a vast ocean. So we try to control life. Actually, generally, what do we think? We want to take everything. Zamane apne mutti mein, they say, right? Like we try to take everything in our control, but we don't know that nature controls us. Okay, generally, if you tell people also, they won't understand this concept. They think what nature will do. I work hard, I will get the result. That's what many people think. What is material nature or prakriti got to do with my hard work? If I do hard work, I will get the result. That's what we think. But that is not the thing. Because we have taken a body in this material world, it is controlled by prakriti. Nothing is in our hand. Okay, that we have to understand. So, what is the solution? If you want to come out of that, if you don't want somebody in material nature to control you, what is the solution? So, and you don't want to undergo all this pain and suffering through this body. So then this body itself should not be there, right? So after you leave this body, you don't want one more body again to suffer. So what is the solution for that? To not get a body, you have to practice Krishna consciousness. Only Krishna consciousness can save us. Why? Because when we remember, I am Krishna's servant, not this body, then we become aloof from all bodily activities and reactions. See, we said, right, it's just a matter of consciousness. When you think you're a servant of Krishna and not this body, then we become, we become aloof from all these bodily activities and reactions. Then what happens? When we do everything for the pleasure of Krishna, no karma binds us, no material suffering touches us. We become peaceful and steady. Okay, so as long as we think I am this body, nature will push us around. Okay, so if you keep still thinking that you are this body, then Prakriti will take care nicely, it will take care of you. It will give you nice punishments, nice kicks, it will give you. But the moment we take shelter of Krishna, we rise above these three modes. We are in Shuddha Sattva when we practice devotional service. Okay, so what do we have to know? The soul never suffers. It is Satchidananda. It is only the body that suffers. Okay, but by forgetting Krishna, we suffer along with it. Okay, the soul, because it has come to this material world, it forgot Krishna. That is the reason we suffer. The soul thinks that it is the body. That is the reason it suffers. But the moment the soul knows it somehow it gets connected to Krishna, then it revives. Okay, so but it becomes free then. See, by remembering Krishna, we become free from bondage. We understand now I'm not this body. I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm soul. I'm not this body. Till now I was thinking I'm the body. Okay, so that we have to understand. Now, Mataji, can you please read the 15 translation, Mataji? Mataji, I think you're on mute, Mataji. I'm not able to hear you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, please, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sloka 15. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now the third person is coming into picture. Who is that? The super soul. Okay. So Krishna, he is never responsible for our sinful or pious activities. Okay. So because he is full in himself, he is Vibhu. He is the supreme. He is unlimited in knowledge and happiness. So who is responsible for our suffering and enjoyment? It is we ourselves. We are. Because we choose, I mean, it depends on what we choose, right? Because of which we suffer or enjoy. So Prabhupada explains, see, the soul has free will and we desire independently from Krishna. Okay? Those desires are fulfilled by Krishna through material nature. So then we experience reactions, good or bad. See, the basic thing is we are soul, right? Like how Krishna is all independent, the soul also it has little bit independence, minute independence it Krishna gives. Okay, so in that independence we misuse, and we think that we are the masters, we are the enjoyers. Everything in this material world is for my enjoyment. I want to enjoy. Because of which, when you say I, means what? There is karma, karmic reaction. When you do anything for your sense gratification, there is karmic reaction, good or bad. Okay? But for everything, we should remember man proposes, God disposes. It's not that all what man proposes always is, if he works hard, he should get the result. No. Sometimes man proposes, God disposes. Okay, but if we think that I want to enjoy separately from Krishna, then what does Prakriti do? It punishes us. So we suffer in ignorance. That's why Maya kicks us. Because we are in ignorance, we think we are this body and the body is everything. So it nicely gives us kicks nicely. Till that time, till we realize that we are souls and we are servants of Krishna. Okay. But the day we think, I want to serve Krishna, then Krishna personally comes to help us. Then we become happy. See, it's like a small example. See, if a child insists, if a child tells his parents, I want to touch fire, but the parent says, no, 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 if you touch fire, you'll burn your hand, it will cause you a lot of pain. But the child, he doesn't listen. He says, no, 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 I want to touch, I want to touch. Okay? But still, okay, now the parent says, okay, he's not listening, even after saying so much. Okay, he allows. Then what happens? He gets burnt, his hands gets burnt. But is the parent the cause of the suffering? No, right? It's the child's desire that caused it. So similarly here also, Krishna, he tells us through the Shastras, through the scriptures, everything he wants us. He tells that if you do like this, you will be happy. If you do like this, you will be yeah, you will get sinful. You'll suffer. But what do we do like that child? We insist. We only want to do sinful enjoyment. And means sinful enjoyment means we want to do everything for ourselves only, for our sense gratification. And then what do we do later? We blame God for our suffering. Why is God giving us so much pain? Why is Krishna giving us so much suffering? Everything we only do. And then we blame on Krishna. Okay, but Krishna already, he told us through the scriptures, you do this, you do this. This is good for you. But we don't listen. Like the child didn't listen to his parent. And then he burns hands. We also do everything for our sense gratification, for which we have to enjoy good or bad karma. And we have to suffer or enjoy that, right? So when suffering comes, we think, oh Krishna, why did he give me so much pain? If God is there, why does he give pain? But we are the cause of that pain. Why should we blame Krishna for that? But Krishna already told us as a good parent. Do this is given in the Shastras, you be like this, you will be happy. Okay, so we have no scope of blaming Krishna. So that is ignorance. So what we should know, the soul is eternal, it is full of knowledge, full of happiness. But because of little independence, we misuse our freedom and we forget Krishna. And we think everything, I only want to enjoy, we think, and we forget Krishna totally. Okay, so this forgetfulness of Krishna is the cause of anxiety, distress, repeated birth and death. Okay, when we forget Krishna and do everything for ourselves, like see, I am right, I'm studying, I have to come first, or I'm doing this business, I have to get profit. Okay, but if profit doesn't come, if loss is there, again, well, that's the reason we have stress, anxiety, frustration. We are not able to take all those emotions. When loss comes, we are not prepared. Because in the mind we are already fixed. I want profit, so they are not able to bear all this distress, anxiety, everything. So Krishna's, they're saying in the shloka, Krishna is neutral. Krishna does not hate anyone or he does not favor anyone. So he gives us what we want. See, if we desire heaven, Prakriti takes us there. That's why we do all these karma kanda activities and we go to heaven. If we desire hell, that also Prakriti takes care. But if we desire Krishna, Krishna personally, he will come and he will take us to his home, back to Godhead. So that is his special mercy. Okay, so what do we understand? Our suffering is not God's fault at all. What is the reason? Our desire to forget God, because we are so much involved in our sense gratification that we forgot Krishna. That is the reason we are suffering. We turned our back against Krishna. So that is why we are suffering. We don't want to serve Krishna. We want to serve ourselves. We want to enjoy. We want to do our own sense gratification. That is the cause of suffering. Okay. So what do we understand? So Krishna is pure and is untouched by karma. And we get the results of our own desires. Okay, like how the child desired to touch fire, because of which he had to burn his hand. So like that, we get the results of the desires that we have, whatever, good or bad. We will get the results for that. Okay, but Krishna helps everyone, but interferes only when we desire him. See, Krishna is equal to everybody. See, it's not like to an atheist, Krishna is not supportive, or to a poor person is not supportive, to a rich person is supportive. Not like that. See, Krishna is giving everybody light. Krishna is giving everybody water. Krishna is giving air to breathe. So many facilities he is giving to the atheist, to the everybody, those who don't believe in God, those who are poor, rich, to everybody he is giving everything. But when somebody specially surrenders to Krishna and say, Krishna, I don't want anything, I want you only, I want to serve you only. for such people, he takes special care. Okay, so by wanting Krishna, we regain our eternal blissful nature. Okay, okay, so let's see this. It's the same thing. See, doer 2 is the modes of material nature, doer 3 is super soul. He's sanctioning, but he's allowed. So here, see, the Lord doesn't take responsibility for anyone's pious or impious activity. The soul desires. So, like how the child desires, the Lord doesn't interfere. The Lord sanctions these desires as the living entity deserves. Then, who sanctions? After Krishna sanctions, the modes, Prakriti, they carry the things out. So, this is the knowledge. This knowledge is in the mode of goodness. So, what do we understand? See, when a living entity desires, it goes to second person. Who is the second doer? First doer is living entity. So, when he wants, he desires something, it goes to Krishna, God, because only if Krishna sanctions can that desire be fulfilled. So it goes to Krishna. So Krishna sees the karma, everything, and he sanctions or depends whatever he his will. He may or may not. If he sanctions, then it goes to Prakriti. The Prakriti fulfills that through the three gunas. So that is the cycle that follows. Okay, Mataji, can you please read the shloka 16?
Hare Krishna, yes. 16 again, Mataji, eh? This is,
Mataji, this one, na datte, you can see, right?
ah,
Yeah, that one, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Nadate kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritam vipuhu ajnana avrutam jnanam
Ajnanena avrutam.
अज्ञानेन आवृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः हरे कृष्ण
So this is the chart, Mataji. They're saying, so see, the living entity, he desires, it's the jiva who desires, then it is like the red arrow is going to super soul. So super soul verifies and sanctions based on, does this jiva deserve to get this desire fulfilled. Then once he thinks yes, it goes to prakriti. So prakriti, after receiving super soul's order, material nature through three modes, that is sattva, raja, tama, fulfill jiva's desire. So it is like a rectangle. Again, jiva desires, Krishna super soul sanctions, then it goes to prakriti. So this is the cycle. Okay, this is the difference between soul and super soul. We'll discuss Mataji 16. I'm just reading this so that we'll go to 16. See, comparing soul and super soul. Soul is eternal. Super soul is also eternal. Soul is blissful, but suffers when covered by Maya. Right? Because the soul, when it comes to this material world, it accepts a body, a material body. So, because of which it suffers, because of Maya, Prakriti. Okay, but super soul is not like that. Though he comes to the material world, he's Shuddha Sattva, he's above the material platform, he's always spiritual, transcendental, he's above the modes, he's blissful, cognizant of his body. Now the soul, it knows the pains and pleasures of the body it is in. See, you know the pains and pleasures of your body, you don't know the pains and pleasures of your father, mother, your husband, wife, children. No, you know only the pains and pleasures of your body. The soul knows it's only of its body. But super soul, because he's present in the heart of every living entity, he knows the pains and pleasures of every living entity, be it bird, insect, bacteria, animals, human beings, demigods. He knows the pains and pleasures of everything because he is present in every living entity. So soul is anu, very, very small. You know, the soul size is very small. 1/10,000 the tip of the hair. Okay, God, Super Soul is Vibhu. He's so big. We saw in the universal form how big Krishna is. Okay, he can be seen everywhere. He's so big. And soul has minute independence to desire, but is dependent upon super soul to fulfill desires. So we saw, right? Shri Krishna gives minute independence. He can decide what he wants, but that desire is dependent upon super soul. That desire which the soul has, it has to be fulfilled or sanctioned by the super soul. Okay, as God super soul, he has complete independence. He can do whatever he wants. Okay, so this is the thing. So now we'll see shloka 16. So Krishna is saying that when true knowledge awakens, the darkness of ignorance is destroyed. Correct, right? See, when in a dark room, if you put light, it's so everything becomes clear. Okay, like that, Krishna says that when true knowledge awakens, the darkness of ignorance is destroyed. See, all throughout, till now, we were in ignorance, darkness. We were thinking that this soul is the body, and we were giving importance to this body, giving comforts and everything we were doing. But we didn't understand that the body and the soul is different. The soul should just use this body as an instrument to serve Krishna. That's all. But it should not think that it is the body. Okay, so now because we have got, when we come to Krishna consciousness, now that true knowledge has come within us, that ignorance is gone. We understand now that we are not the body, we are the soul. We should just use this body as an instrument to serve Krishna. Okay, so and life becomes clear, just like the sunlight. When sunlight comes, the darkness goes, everything becomes clear. Otherwise, in the darkness, we don't know what is what. When the sunlight comes, we can see everything clearly. So, what is the real knowledge? Krishna is God and I am his eternal servant. Okay, so all these days we were in ignorance. So what is the ignorance that we were in? Darkness. And what is real knowledge? Sunlight. We'll see. The ignorance we were in is, till now we were thinking I am this body, but what is the real knowledge? I am soul, eternal soul. What else were we thinking? We thought that I am independent. We thought I can do whatever I want. I am only doing everything you're thinking. I am independent, you're thinking. Okay, but what is real knowledge? I am Krishna's servant. I can never become master. We all are thinking here that we are masters and everything is for my enjoyment. But actually, what is the truth? Real knowledge? I'm not master. I can never be master. I'm Krishna's servant. Okay, and some people, they go to the last stage after they get frustrated if they're not successful in life. Finally, they come last layer of Maya. They say, I am God. That's why we see, right? Many people now in Kali Yuga, many people say, I am God, I am God, I am God. Okay, but what is the real knowledge that we get? Krishna is God. I am just his part and parcel. Okay, but when we are in ignorance, because we think everything for our satisfaction, that time what? We are in confusion, fear, doubts, full of doubts. But when we come to know that we are Krishna's eternal servant, and when we give our results to Krishna, just doing our duty, what happens? We get peaceful, clarity, we get happiness. Okay, so knowledge doesn't mean just reading books. So real knowledge means what? Surrendering to Krishna. So that is the main thing. Okay, so how do we get this light of knowledge? So Prabhupada says, from where do we get this true knowledge? So Prabhupada is saying, by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Okay, learn Krishna consciousness with humility. Be very humble. Then only that knowledge will be transferred from the spiritual master to you. So accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. As long as you think I am the master, you can never surrender to Krishna. If you think yourself as a servant, then only you can accept somebody higher to you. But if you yourself think I am the highest, I am the enjoyer, then that humility will not be there, that humbleness won't be there. Okay? So, as long as someone claims that I am God, like I am the enjoyer, I am the master, they are still in the darkest ignorance. Why? Because if God can be confused by ignorance, who is greater? God or ignorance? See, we are in this darkest ignorance. We are thinking now because we are in ignorance, we are not able to know God. So that is why see, if God, we are getting confused by ignorance. Okay, so that statement exposes the foolishness of such thinking. So that ignorance, that we think that we are the masters, will go only because when the spiritual master comes and he tells you the truth, that you are not the enjoyer, you cannot become the master, you are just a servant. Your swabhava is what? You are Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. Okay, so that Krishna comes and, the spiritual master comes and guides us. So a true guru never says he's God, but is honored but he is treated like God because he gives us the path to God. Okay, so a guru is like a via medium. He connects the soul to Krishna. Okay, so just like the sun gives light, the guru gives spiritual light. Okay, so individuality is eternal. So each individual soul is eternal. Okay, so we have to understand that we are individuals, separate. Okay, so Prabhupada tells us Krishna is always an individual person. We are also individual persons, individual souls. And even after liberation, also, we remain individual souls. It's not like the impersonalists who say that after liberation they merge into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and they become one with God. They lose their individuality. No. Even before liberation, we are individuals, and after liberation also, we will remain individuals. See, it's just like in daytime, we see everything separately. Okay, so Krishna consciousness also shows the real identity of everything. Okay, so it's like this. If you see in the night time, all trees look like one dark mass. We can't see anything. But the same thing in daytime, when the sun rises, now we can see everything, the tree, the house, the road, people, everything separate and clear. So similarly, without Krishna, everything seems confusion, dark. So we are in ignorance, so we don't know. Everything will seem confusing, like that, haphazard everything. But with Krishna, it means in sunlight, everything becomes visible. The truth, we can see everything. Everything becomes meaningful. Okay, so Krishna consciousness is the sunlight that removes the darkness of ignorance and reveals our eternal relationship with Krishna. So what is true knowledge? True knowledge means to surrender to Krishna. And who gives us that true knowledge? Guru gives us that true knowledge. What do we know from Guru? That Krishna is God and I am his servant. Okay, and we are separate individuals. Krishna is an individual. We are also individuals. Okay, so Krishna consciousness gives us that real life in full light. So that we have to understand. Okay. So Mataji, next tomorrow we'll start from 17. Mataji, we'll stop here for today.
Okay, Mataji.